Well, for more on the Pope's visit to the United States, I'm joined in the studio here by Rise News correspondent Faith Orr. Very good afternoon to you, Faith. What kind of reception, then, does he expect in the United States?
He's certainly looking at a warm reception. In fact, he's actually reached out to people in the United States, to pilgrims across the country, to come and see him in Philadelphia. He's issued a personal invitation to them, and I think we can just take a look at that.
For to greet in the pilgrims and the people of Philadelphia when I come for the World Meeting for Families. I will be there because you will be there. See you in Philadelphia.
Well, he's been credited with trying to, or helping to, normalise relations between Cuba and the United States, of course, but there's more to it than that, isn't there?
Oh yes, certainly. I mean, he really has been a proponent of this. He's held secret talks between the US officials and Cuban officials at the Vatican, written personally to Barack Obama, Raul Castro, to try and help, encourage them to develop relations between the two countries. But he's not, a lot of Vatican insiders say actually he shouldn't be given full credit for this. This has been going on for quite a while. One of his predecessors, Pope John Paul II, visited Cuba in 1998. He met Fidel Castro. The Vatican really has been pushing for a normalisation of these relations, as well as the dropping of the embargo for years. So he isn't the first Pope to encourage this.
And of course, Faith, as we speak, we're watching the Pope live in Revolution Square in Havana after having celebrated Mass, or going to celebrate it. But as you're suggesting there, he's been trying to pull both sides, if we can call them that, together for at least 2 years, but as you suggest as well, other people within his rather large team trying to do that as well. But some interesting news today, as you have been mentioning to me before, about in relation to the UN resolution and that trade embargo against Cuba. We can talk a bit about that, I suppose, while we still watch these pictures. Quite
yes.
Controversial.
Very controversial. Actually, it's interesting just to pick up on these pictures just for a second. I was reading a lot about this today, and a lot of people are coming out, not necessarily because they're Catholics, but because they want to show support and respect for the Pope for what he's done to normalise these relations.
That really does seem to be the case. I think that at the same time, I was reading a Cuban newspaper produced over here, and they were suggesting as well that atheists had been bussed in by the order of the Cuban government to welcome the Pope. So that kind of thing is going on, and is another backdrop to this.
Yeah, there's been a huge reception for him, and it is all to do with, as we say, his stance on the trade embargo that America has imposed on Cuba. Now, it's really interesting. Cuba, for 23 years, have brought this resolution before the United Nations to say that they want this embargo lifted. Every year, the United States has opposed it. Their support has been dwindling over the years. For instance, last year, only Israel backed them, so they lost that vote by 188 votes to 2. So really, quite a defeat for them there. But this year, there's some government officials from America, speaking anonymously, it has to be said, that say the administration is considering abstaining from this year's vote. Now, that would be a first. There's no country, that's no member state of the United Nations, has ever failed to oppose a resolution that's criticising their own laws.
Sure.
So that would be a really
interesting to see as you speak the pictures there as well of the Pope finally getting there and being welcomed in that manner. But I think he is now the third Pope to have visited Havana and Cuba in general. But Raul Castro and Fidel Castro, the brothers, were brought up Catholic, and I think they were educated by the Jesuits. But then, come the revolution, they really suppressed Catholicism and religion in general, but now a complete change. Yeah,
well, they lightened up on that a little bit in the 90s. As you say, after the revolution it was hugely suppressed. But that has been easing off since the 90s. And we have seen, Fidel Castro speaking to the Pope, warming, and he says, he might even change his views further on Catholicism after that, and a huge respect for the Pope for what he's done this. He met both of the brothers during this trip. So it's a big move.
Okay, whatever the ins and outs today, a success surely for the Pope. Okay, Faith, thank you very much indeed for that.